The Cigpet ECO12. So this is the ECO12 tank from Cigpet, which is a sister company of iJoy. I received this tank from heavengifts.com for the purpose of this review, so big thanks to those guys. Let's jump right into it. So first let's talk about what's in the box. ECO12 tank, a bag of extra O-rings, tank protector bands, a spare glass tank, one ECO12 coil at 0.12 ohms, which is rated at 60 to 350 watts, and one ECO4 coil at 0.15 ohms, which is rated at 60 to 180 watts. So let's talk specs. The tank holds 6.5 milliliters, it's 28 millimeters in diameter, has a resin drip tip, an optional ECO RTA deck. You can also get a T14 coil, which is a 0.12 ohm coil rated at 60 to 360 watts, an optional ECO T16 coil, which is rated at 0.11 ohms and can go from 60 to 400 watts, and an ECO X4 coil, which is a 0.15 ohm coil that can go from 60 to 200 watts. All right, now let's talk about manufacturing quality. So the machining on here is very nice. The threading is super smooth, everything fits together well, and all of the parts seem very durable. So this is a sub-ohm tank designed for flavor and massive clouds, which means this tank needs a lot of airflow. There is a ton of airflow if you want it, but you can also reduce the airflow to a restricted draw if that's what you like. You can't really do mouth to lung though. All right, let's talk about the coils. So the ECO12 comes with two coil heads, the ECO T12 coil, 0.12 ohm coil, 60 to 350 watts, and the ECO Q4 coil, which is a 0.15 ohm coil, rated to 60 to 180 watts. I've used both coils a lot and have some thoughts on each of them. The T12 coil, which is the 0.12 ohm coil that can handle up to 350 watts, works great. The highest wattage device that I have is 200 watts and the coil handled it perfectly. It's a hot vape, but you'll get massive clouds and in my opinion, really good flavor too. The Q4 coil handles up to 180 watts. I found that it performs nearly as well as the T12 at its recommended limit of 180 watts. If you don't vape at high temperatures, you probably wouldn't notice a big difference, but it does seem like the T12 has slightly better flavor output. There are also two other types of coils that you can buy. The T14 coil, which is a 0.12 ohm coil, 60 to 360 watts, or the T16 coil, which is a 0.11 ohm, 60 to 400 watt coil. Oh, and there's the X4, which is a 60 to 200 watt coil. I haven't tried any of these coils and I don't have a device that can push 360 or 400 watts, so I'll probably never try these coils. I don't know if there are even any devices on the market that can actually fire above 300 watts reliably, but these coil heads have a ton of coils within them, which might translate to better flavor at really high wattages. Another cool feature is that you can use smoke TFV12 coils in this tank and vice versa. Let's talk about the RTA deck. So there's also an optional rebuildable RTA deck, but it doesn't come with the tank. I was a little disappointed about that, but from what I understand, the reason Cigpet didn't include it is because it keeps the price down. Since not everyone uses rebuildable decks, they figured that more people would be interested in the tank at a lower price range. And for anyone who wants a deck, they can buy it later. I've seen the deck in various places for around $10 to $20, so it's not too bad. I actually like the ECO12 tank so much that I want to be able to use it indefinitely, so I actually did buy the RTA deck. It's a really interesting deck that allows you to install either 2 coils or 4 coils. 4 coils in an RDTA is not a common feature in rebuildable tanks, so that's pretty cool. I ordered the RTA deck long after getting the ECO12 tank, so I haven't had a lot of time experimenting with it, but I have some initial thoughts. My first build was a quadruple coil build with regular round wire coils. The problem that I found with this is wicking, since 4 coils requires a lot of cotton, which is hard to stuff into those wicking holes. You might be able to fix this by building smaller diameter coils that use less cotton. Then I installed a dual coil Clapton build, which performed pretty good. The flavor was good and it wicked much better, but neither of these builds had as much flavor as the T12 coils. And one big drawback that I found with the RTA deck are the post screws. Basically they suck. They don't stay tight. It's worse on the single round wire coils, but they aren't so good on the Clapton coils either. It's hard to get the screws to stay down tight and they tend to back out. I started to strip the screws just trying to get them to hold the coils down. Unfortunately, I'd have to say that the RTA deck is not very good. Okay, now let's talk about the drip tip. The manufacturing process of the resin drip tip makes it so that every tip is unique. You won't know what color you're getting until you open the box. That's a bit of a con to me because you might end up with a color that you don't like. And that's actually how I felt. I don't like the colors of the tip that I got. I think it would have been cool for them to include a plain black non-resin drip tip for anyone that doesn't like the color of their drip tip, of the resin drip tip. But it's amazing how much a drip tip can affect the experience of vaping. This is the first time that I've ever used a resin drip tip and I love it. It's smooth and it feels great on my lips. It doesn't get hot and it doesn't attract gross lip gunk either. I didn't like the way the drip tip looked on this at first, but now I don't even care. The experience that I get from it far outweighs how it looks. And you might even get a drip tip color that you do like. And if you don't, and the looks really bother you, you can actually order more drip tips for pretty cheap. I saw them in packs of 5 for about $20. Alright, now let's talk about looks. So this is a huge 28mm tank, and that means if you have a smaller device, this tank will look pretty funny. But if looks don't matter to you, and you're all about functionality and e-juice capacity, you'll like this tank. I'm also not a big fan of how the tank expands outward from the deck. I just think it looks a little funny looking, but you might not mind. It has 6.5 ml juice capacity, and it's one of the best things about this tank. You won't have to fill this tank very often, and I've seen some reviews say that it holds up to 7 milliliters. I haven't tested that myself, but that's what I've heard. Okay, let's talk about performance. So like I said earlier, the airflow is massive for a tank, and that airflow is super smooth too. I don't know how to explain that smooth airflow, but it just seems like it flows right through the coil very efficiently. With coils being able to handle up to 300 watts, you can get some massive vapor out of this tank if that's something that you're looking for. And I think the flavor production is really good, even at those really high wattages. I haven't had any issues with leaking whatsoever, which is really nice, even after filling the tank with the airflow holes wide open, which you're not usually able to do with a lot of tanks without e-juice spilling everywhere. So let's talk about my final thoughts. This is a high wattage sub-ohm tank that will probably mostly appeal to more experienced vapors who like to vape at high wattages or high temperatures. The performance from this tank is amazing, and I'm a huge fan of it. And at around $20, it's a must buy in my opinion. So like I said, I got this from heavengifts.com, so you can buy it from there. I've seen the tank various places online for around $20 to $30, and you can get the various different coils. They have so many different coils. You can get them in various price ranges, anywhere from $15 to $20. So not too expensive, a little much for the larger coils like the T16, T12, you're gonna expect to pay about $20 for a 3-pack of those. The RTA deck is about $10 to $15 depending on where you get it. So altogether, you know, it's not that expensive. I think it's a decently priced tank.